Hello, baseball fans. Welcome. It's Monday. It's time for another Locked On crossover with Locked On MLB and Locked On Diamondbacks. I'm one of your hosts, Paul Francis Sullivan. Check down there. You know what you can call me? You can call me the 50-year-old Sully. And right over there, if you're watching on the YouTubes, who's that? Who's that handsome younger man than me by the microphone? What's your name?
I'm just Sully 25 years earlier, Millard Thomas.
There's some things about me 25 years earlier that look really different.
Yeah, got a little tan going, got the hair growing out.
There you go. I wasn't sure how to even say that. But hey, what I'll say, this is a Locked On MLB crossover with Locked On Diamondbacks. This is being dropped on the 16th day of May, 2022. Thanks so much for making us your first listen, as we're available on all your free podcasts and catchers. Be sure to tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On MLB or podcast Locked On Diamondbacks. Check out some of the other great shows on the Locked On Podcast Network, including, heck, I'll mention it right now, Locked On Now. Mention Locked On Now. Get recaps of Major League Baseball games with analysis for our local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network. They're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me. You can follow Locked On MLB on Twitter or at Instagram, Locked On MLB Pods. I'm your pal Sully. You can right down there because you can follow me on Twitter at Sully Baseball, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Millard, where can people follow you?
At Creator Thomas 24 for my personal account on Twitter, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle.
All right. So just, again, full disclosure, pulling back the curtain a little bit here. There is a game that's still going on as we're recording it. The Cardinals are beating the Giants in looks like it to be an absolute thriller. Right now it's 13-2 Cardinals. As my mom would say, the score is a lot to not enough. So unless something is extraordinary going to happen in that game, I think that you can go to Bet Online and say that Cardinals are going to actually win that game. So let's just go over some things that happened this weekend. It's interesting. It feels like the season just started, right?
Still pretty new.
But we're almost at the 1 quarter mark.
Wow. Is it that? We're like 30-something games in?
Well, think of it. If it's 162 games, roughly 40 games will be about a quarter of the way through the season, right?
That's true.
41 games, multiply that by 4, that's 164.
That's why you're the teacher, Sully.
That's right. That's why Cal State Fullerton doesn't admit you unless you're smart, okay? And also doesn't admit you if you stumble through a sentence like that. But, it's too early to declare champions or declare winners. But do you know what? You can get off to a super fast start and cruise the rest of the way. There have been instances like that. The 1990 Cincinnati Reds got off to an absolutely red hot start. And for the second half of the season, they basically played 500 ball. But they went wire to wire, won the division, ultimately won the World Series. When you're seeing some of the teams that are off to super hot starts, I'm looking at you, New York Yankees, the lone team with fewer than 10 losses this season. We're about a quarter of the way through the year, and this is the best Yankee team I've seen in a decade. And I have to say, I have to eat a little bit of crow to a degree because I didn't pick them to go to the playoffs and everything. And I have to make sure I say this clearly. I didn't think they were going to be a bad team. I just thought they had too many question marks. Too many question marks had to go their way. And right now, a lot of those question marks have turned into exclamation points, especially today's winner. The guy, again, we're not going to go into – we'll get into in segment 2, we'll get into the validity, again, of the win and loss stat. But Nestor Cortez Jr., who, by the way, is pitching brilliantly, he only got a second win. His ERA is now at 1.35, pitched 8 innings, let up 3 hits, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, no walks. Their pitching staff has been unbelievable. And, I don't think they've been a legit pennant contender. Somebody look at some, man, they may go to the World Series. Yeah, I know they got to the LCS a couple of times, but this is the best they've looked like in a decade, I think.
Yeah, I was going through the research. I was looking at the Yankee teams on Baseball Reference, and I forgot they had a little lull there where there was like they were like a 80 mid 80 win team for like 4 straight seasons, and I completely forgot that in Yankees lore because of course Yankee fans don't want to talk about that. But yeah, trying to figure out if this is the best Yankee teams in a decade. I mean, you have to go back 2018, 2019. They both had they had back-to-back 100+ win seasons, but if you look at those two teams, I don't know. I feel like the Yankee team this year is just probably the most well-balanced Yankees team we've seen in a decade because those back-to-back 100-win seasons in 2018 and 2019, I don't know if you felt like they had the horses in the rotation as opposed to what the Yankees have now, because there's no Garrett Cole basically. If you look at the last decade of Yankees baseball, the bullpens have been similar to what they were this year. The lineups have been similar to what they were this year. But I think the biggest difference is the rotation, because in the last decade, they've had the CC Sabathias and the Tanakas, but they didn't really have a true ace. CC was a little bit on his back nine. Tanaka, he was pretty good, but I don't think you would ever qualify him as an ace or your number one starter in your rotation. But you look at this Yankees rotation now, led by Garrett Cole, who's getting paid, the big bucks in baseball. He's one of the highest paid players in baseball. And behind him, you got the Nestor Cortez, as we talked about, who has been a breakout star this year. Montgomery, Severino's back. You got Taillon. This rotation from top to bottom looks really strong. And I think that's the biggest difference to why I think this is maybe the best Yankees team in a decade. Now, we'll have to see how it plays out in the postseason, because they have made a couple of championship series runs in the last 10 years, but they never, of course, made it back to the World Series since 2009. But on paper, I would say this is the best Yankees team right now because I think it's the most well-balanced. I could look at Yankees teams in the past and see that they hit home runs, they scored runs, they maybe shut down or had a shut down bullpen as well. But I don't think any of those teams in the last decade have had a rotation as good as the one we're seeing right now by the New York Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, you go from the moment Jeter broke his ankle in the 2012 ALCS against Detroit, and Yankee Stadium went silent that night, and they got swept in the ALCS by the Tigers, and they missed the postseason in 2013. They missed the postseason in 2014 and 16. They missed the postseason 3 out of 4 years, and the one year they did get in, they got in as a wild card team. They lost the wild card game. So in a 4-year span, they played one postseason game. Now, in 2017, they got back to the ALCS. They stunned the Indians. The Indians they had that winning streak, looked like they were going to avenge their World Series loss. They stunned the Indians, and then they lost to the trash cans. So, I mean, that was a team that played above its head in 2017. The team in 2018, yeah, they won 100 games, but they were still a wild card team. And the Astros and the Yankees were both clearly better than the Yankees that year. In 2019, they had a wonderful season, but just ask Stacey Gotsulias about that year. That was a really weird year for the Yankees because they had a ton of injuries, and they had to rely on the Mike Tauchmans and the DJ LeMahieu's and the Gio Urshela's, and they got pitching from the Jay Happs and the James Paxtons. It was a weird team because they were loaded with injuries, and all the guys who came in to fill in, I think Stanton only played like 18 games that year.
Yeah, he didn't play a lot that season.
It's a weird year because this team shouldn't get, and they got to Game 6 of the ALCS. The COVID season, the Rays were clearly better than them in the COVID season, and last year, they lost to Boston in the wild card game, and if they hadn't lost to Boston, they weren't better than Tampa. They weren't better than Houston. So this year, at least a quarter of the way through, and you mentioned the fact that they're getting really good pitching from obviously Cortez and Cole and Taillon and Montgomery, and Severino's been okay. He hasn't been great, but the bullpen, they got Michael King has been an all-star. Someone named Clark Schmidt has been unbelievable for them, and they still have Chapman and Clay Holmes and Chad Green, and Miguel Castro's been great. Like it's scary if you're a Yankee hater, because one of the reasons they won all those titles in the late 90s and early 2000s, they never had anyone leading the league in home runs. In fact, they only, in the 4 title seasons they had with Joe Torre, Bernie Williams hit 30 home runs once, and that was the only 30 home run hitter they had in any of those 4 title years. And that was in the middle of the steroid era. And you could point to people at every position and find a better one in the American League, whether it was Griffey, Albert Bell, Frank Thomas, Robbie Alomar, A-Rod, whomever, all around the diamond, Ivan Rodriguez. But the Yankees had someone good at every position, and they had unbelievable pitching depth. And that seems to be the formula they have this year. They have someone good at every position, and their pitching depth is really great. And it's scary. If you don't want to see the Yankees back in the World Series, this may not be your year, because I'm hoping I'm jinxing them right now. But I see a lot of crow with this Yankee team. They're proving a lot of the doubters wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I also said they weren't going to make the postseason. I think I'm going to amend that statement pretty soon. But
can't amend it.
Okay, we'll see what happens. But I will say on the lineup point, just looking at across the diamond on paper, I don't know if I feel like this Yankees team is as good on paper in terms of the lineup as teams that we've seen in the last decade, like that 2018 team or maybe back in 2012. Because as good as not Harper, because I know we're going to talk about him later, as good as Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton has been, Anthony Rizzo has been fire as well. I feel like the lineup is not as deep as years past, because I feel like shortstop, I look at Aaron Hicks, I look at Joey Gallo. I feel like there's a bunch of holes around this diamond. Gleyber Torres as well. I feel like there's still a lot of holes around this Yankees team in terms of top end talent in that lineup. We'll see if Josh Donaldson can come around, but I feel like if Giancarlo Stanton or Aaron Judge goes down for a month to 2 months, that offense could really crater. I feel like they're still kind of dependent a little bit on the home run. I just feel like there's not. When I used to look at the Yankees team in the last 10 years, I feel like you could go 7, 8 hitters deep, and I really felt like the Yankees team was really deep and really long, and it really scary at the bottom of the lineup. I don't feel that way with this Yankees team. I feel like once I get past like the number 5, number 6 hitter, I feel like this Yankees team is pretty vulnerable once you get to the bottom of their lineup.
I think this is where the pitching comes in, though. I think this is the pitching. I think the offense is good enough to push ahead 2 or 3 runs. Okay. And they're not going to be. I don't think the Yankees are going to be bludgeoning anyone. I mean, they've had some big blowout games recently, so yeah. But I think that you can rely on them to score 2 or 3 runs, and I think the pitching is good enough to make that count. And I think that look at they've been getting Higashioka's not been good. Gallo, even though he's been heating up a little bit, is still. I mean, his OPS is still under 700. Terrible. And Hicks, you get what you get, but LeMahieu's hitting better, and he had a bad year last year. And Judge is both Judge and Stanton are all stars.
They're beasts.
And Rizzo, he doesn't have the high average, but everything else, he's got the good slugging, he's got the good OPS, he's got great defense, which and just throw the ball anywhere near first base, and he'll pick it. And and Torres has settled down since they entrenched him at second base. And while we all got on the Yankees for not picking up a star shortstop, so far kind of Fluff has been doing the job, and doing the job better than Trevor Story with the Red Sox. I mean, who would you rather have right now? So, I mean, look again, it's only 1 quarter of the way through the season, and 1 quarter of the way through last year, the Kansas City Royals look great. So a lot of things can happen. And you're right that if, Stanton has been injury prone, and he's on the wrong side of 30. Judge has had injury issues. He's on the wrong side of 30. Donaldson's had injury issues. He's on the wrong side of 30. So there's a lot, they're banking that a lot of these players are going to stay healthy. But that being said, for us Yankee haters, it's time for us to, to say that if we put our money on the Yankees losing, we may not have been making the best bets.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go a little segue there, so I was giving you your moment if you wanted to take it off.
That you mean I was saying if you want to make any bets, you go to Bet Online, which remains the number 1 site for betting. I didn't know. I was going to throw you a chance to say one more.
Yeah, I'll say
our partners at Bet Online continue to be the number 1 source for all your betting needs and info. We just make all this up. That's not written down for us. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including the basketball playoffs, including the NBA champion Boston Celtics, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. The past, it was the NLF, but this time it's the NFL. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, we're here with Millard Thomas. What's your middle name again?
Shane is my middle name. I also have a second middle name, Roberto. Millard Shane Roberto Thomas.
Okay, so imagine if you split, if you were Millard Shane and Roberto Thomas.
Whoa, could be two people right there. That could be
Right
like
there.
my podcast person, and then like when I'm off the podcast, that's like me.
Yeah.
My baseball guy is Roberto Thomas.
Yeah, that's your Batman Bruce Wayne. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert. Batman is Bruce Wayne. By the way, nothing to do with anything. Batman's first appearance was in Detective Comics 27 back in 1939. And it's hilarious to read it now because the comic strips had a big reveal of who Batman was. Like, who is this Batman? And this character, Bruce Wayne, shows up a couple of times. He looked like this stuffed shirt, and it follows Commissioner Gordon. And at the end, the big twist is, but what he didn't know was secretly Bruce Wayne was the Batman.
Whoa.
Mind blown. Mind blown. Similarly, in the original book of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, written by Robert Louis Stevenson, the entire book is told from the point of view of one of Dr. Jekyll's closest friend, who is trying to figure out the relationship between Dr. Jekyll and this mysterious Mr. Hyde. And he can't figure out what their relationship is and why they never seem to be in the same room together. And he can't figure it out. Why? Who is it? And at the end, he finds out that Dr. Jekyll is Mr. Hyde.
Whoa.
And you're reading it, we're like, yeah, it's because it's Mr. Hyde. It's the same dude. It's literally Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh, is it that obvious?
Yep. But back then, man, that was the sixth sense of the 19th century right there.
It's like Darth Vader, huh? It's like German father.
Spoilers.
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 Sorry for all the listeners out there who haven't seen Star Wars.
I'll only 1939 is as close as I'll allow any spoilers. But hey, also spoilers. A team threw a no-hitter today and lost. That is just that is banana boat time. And I know it's happened a few times. I remember it happened in I remember it happened in, I think it was 89. I'm doing some of this from memory, but I remember Andy Hawkins, who was a pitcher for the Yankees, threw a no-hitter in Chicago. But it was the winds were like really weird at Comiskey Park, and the left fielder for the Yankees, who I want to say it was either Gary Ward or Mel Hall. It was probably Mel Hall because he was on that team. I do remember that. And one of them he was trying to find it, circle, and clank off his glove, and a bunch of runs came in, and he lost the game, which he threw a no-hitter. A couple of years after that, I know the Red Sox had a pitcher named Matt Young, who threw a no-hitter where he was he let up some runs because some walks, errors, and wild pitches. Man, just heartbreaking today in Pittsburgh, where Hunter Green, a feel-good story. Guy's been in the minor leagues for a while, came back from injuries, finally made it to the major leagues, threw great out of the gate. Then, like with the rest of the Reds, he slumps, and he took a no-hitter into the 8th inning, and he finished with a line where he threw 7 1/3 innings, no hits, 5 walks, 9 strikeouts, and 1 earned run. I mean, anyone would take 7 1/3 innings where you only allow 1 run and you strike out 9, even with the 5 walks. And the run scored on an infield, a fielder's choice. Warren came in to finish out the inning, and the Pirates finished out the game. The Reds are they have 9 wins. They can't even win their no-hitters. I mean, no. Jeff Carr, let's feel for you at Locked On Reds. Good Lord, it's going to be a long year. You can't even win your no-hitters.
Yeah, poor Jeff. These were 2 teams that came into this season with no aspirations of doing anything, and when they played each other, the Pirates are like, you know what? We're definitely not going to try to win this game. We're going to try so hard not to win this game that we're not even going to get a base hit. We're not even going to try to hit the ball in this game. The Reds said, wait a minute, stop right there. We also don't want to win this game, so we're just going to let you guys score, okay? We're going to let you score. Even though you're not going to get a base hit today, you're still going to win today's ball game, and that's what happened between the Pittsburgh Pirates and Cincinnati Reds. It was basically a game of chicken of who was going to take this win, because neither one of these teams wants to win. Like we've all talked about the Reds and their offseason and them blowing up their team, but the Pirates got in on this like a season early before even the Cincinnati Reds even started doing it, because I mean, they've blown up their team. They got no talent on their roster. They got Brian Reynolds, who has been an all-star, but there's already discussions about maybe the Pirates should move on from him and keep just retooling this roster and keep rebuilding it. So right now, these are two terrible teams, and right now, the way that baseball's set up with their new draft lottery, you can't sting for more than 3 seasons before you're basically ineligible from getting a top pick. So I want to see how these two teams rebuild these programs over the next couple seasons, because they seem to have a lot of work to do, because when you're a team getting no hit and you can still win a ball game, and when you're a team throwing a no hitter and you can't win a ball game, your two teams are probably in poverty states right now. So I don't even know what to make of today's game, because I mean, like you said, it's happened before in Major League history. I think the last time it happened was 2008, but even when it does happen, it's still crazy to think, because you don't normally see a no-hitter in a team that gets no hit still wins. But on your Hunter Green point, I mean, he's been up and down this season. His ERA is above 6, but it was a nice showing by the guy today. He's a flamethrower. I think in his first start of the Major League season this year, I think he threw more 100-mile-an-hour pitches than the D-backs have thrown in the last 10 years in just his first start. So the dude has a lot of promise, and I hope the Reds don't F up his future.
Yeah. It just, I wonder if someone went to bet online and they put a lot of money and they try to throw the game they try to get the Pirates to throw the game and then try to get the Reds to throw the game. And this is the result. How could it be any worse? Last week when you and I were on, I brought up the game where Harvey Haddix threw 12 perfect innings back in 1959, and he let up an unearned run in the 13th inning and got the loss.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a discussion on the worthlessness of the win and loss stat. I can't think, here we are a week later, of a clearer example of the worthlessness of that stat, because we told you the line with Green, 7 1/3 innings. And you take any ace pitcher in baseball history and have him pitching into the 8th inning, you take that. I mean, okay, you wouldn't want him with 5 walks, but if he had 3 hits and 2 walks, that wouldn't be, I mean, it's basically the 5 base runners over 7 1/3 innings, 9 strikeouts, which is tremendous in 7 1/3 innings. And of course, no hits. Loss. Mm-hmm. That's an L. Try harder next time.
And the Pirates guy didn't get the win. He went 7.
I know. Jose Quintana, let's give him some credit.
Yeah.
When he was matching, maybe not, he allowed 3 hits and 1 walk. You could make the argument he was more effective. But he struck out 5. He pitched 7 shutout innings.
At least
any pitcher you would be happy with 7 shutout innings.
At least Hunter Green was acknowledged with the loss. We don't even know that that Quintana even started, because he didn't get the win or loss. At least
no decision. No decision. Try harder next time.
Rough.
Chris Stratton. Now it's funny. A friend of mine named Christy Stratton, who is a wonderful television writer. She wrote for King of the Hill and a bunch of other really good television shows over the year. I think she wrote for Modern Family for a while too. Just really extraordinarily talented. I've known her since she was a stand-up comic and really, really tremendous writer. And I saw Chris Stratton won the game. And my first thought was, man, she's talented. All these shows, and she wins a game. Who won the no-hitter? Chris Stratton. Chris Stratton. What does that tell you about this pitcher's duel between Quintana? Both Quintana and Green were tremendous today. Neither one gets the win. Someone named Chris Stratton came in, who, by the way, faced 5 batters, and he threw 24 pitches, let up a walk and a hit. He gets a win. He gets to wave that around in his ledger. That's a victory for him. How does this stat have any validity at this point?
Honestly,
I mean, we've got to learn that this is at this point, don't even list it. You and I said that list your average start, like a typical start, so we can start saying this is how this pitcher is pitching, because the victory in this, I hate using the term literally, because I'll say it factually means nothing.
Yeah, it factually means nothing. Looking at the box score for this Reds Pirates game, you could just do a little name game of if I told you this player's name, would you say this guy's in Major League Baseball or not? Because most of these guys looking at this box score, I have no idea who they are. I mean, you're just mentioning Chris Stratton, who got the win today. I have no idea who Chris Stratton is. The D-backs got outpitched by someone named Justin Steele today on the Chicago Cubs. I have no idea who that person was entering the game. I mean, looking at the Cincinnati Reds, they're starting Brandon Drury, who's actually having a pretty damn good season, former top prospect for the Arizona Diamondbacks
Yeah.
way back when. Like, there's some really interesting names in this game that's just kind of forgotten about, like the Mike Moustakas. He plays for the Cincinnati Reds as well. And just looking at the Pirates side, like Josh Van Meter, former D-backs, not fan favorite playing for that team, and just up and down their roster. Like they have so many guys, like I literally don't know who they are. And Ke'Bryan Hayes, like he's just kind of become a forgotten guy. Like he was one of their top prospects, one of the top prospects in baseball, had a lot of hype entering last season, and he's actually having a pretty decent year. This is looking at his splits 301, 398, 381, and no one's even talked about Ke'Bryan Hayes. No one's even mentioned him or the kind of season he's having. Like we've talked about the Jarred Kelenics and how he struggled in Seattle and he's being optioned to the minor league. We've talked about other top prospects in baseball, but because Ke'Bryan Hayes is on the Pittsburgh Pirates, one of the most one of the least talked about teams in Major League Baseball, one of the worst teams right now in Major League Baseball. He just become like a forgotten about man, and it's kind of disappointing to see because we always talk about baseball trying to market their stars better, and the Pirates, maybe they have a guy who could be a budding star. I mean, they signed him to that contract extension right before the season started, and he's so far playing pretty well for this Pittsburgh Pirates team.
First of all, I know that you made a couple of really great points there. One great point is in the Pirates. I know that the batting average is a very flawed stat and may soon
Mhm.
fall into the same category as the wins and losses. I will point out that 5 of their 9 starters had batting averages under 210 in the Pirates. Not that it's the end all be all, but it's a sign that you're not getting a lot of hits there.
Yeah, I still care
Um,
about it.
I'm old enough to remember there was a computer game that I used to play in the 90s called Hardball. And I used to play hardball so often that I actually kept stats in little notebooks. Now, hardball never got the rights to use any of the actual names of major leaguers, so they had all these fictional names of players. And if you want to have, you know, Hank Contos or Jackie Mora on your team, I played so much hardball, I knew who was good.
Mm.
Which is again, I wonder why my love life was the way it was in the 20s. I look at this lineup and is this a real lineup or is this a hardball lineup? Is this an actual major league lineup or is this hardball where they couldn't get the rights to the players, so they created their own league? And I would like to like my brother and I used to play a lot of hardball. I know some other people who played hardball, and by the way, if you played hardball on your computer in the 90s, shoot me a tweet at Sully Baseball. We could talk about our respective scouting reports and whether we thought Audley and Kama was a good hitter and Jay Shepard's speed was, oh man, you don't steal, you can't throw him out. He's going. But yeah,
Yeah,
this
man,
is it'd be a
I
fun
could.
game to play. Of is this a pirate or is this a hardball player?
Yeah, I was gonna say so. That should be a segment on your show. Just hardball player, Pirates or Pittsburgh Pirate, or you can even throw the Cincinnati Reds. Make it
Yeah.
2-for-1 deal. Is this a hardball player, or is this a Cincinnati Red or Pittsburgh Pirate player? Because seriously, I think if you did that test for people, they wouldn't know. Because if you did that test for me, I guarantee you, I might get half of them wrong.
Well, I am old enough to remember doing that. In fact, as I pointed out over the weekend, I hit the big 5-0.
Woo.
And I gave myself a treat. I gave myself birthday cake. Birthday cake this weekend. Now, do you know what kind of birthday cake I had? What do you think?
What? I'm gonna guess it was a Puff Bar, Sully.
Yeah, I got myself a Built Bar. Birthday
Hey.
cake, Built Bar right there. The Built Puffs. That's right. Oh man, and I don't feel ripped off. We put a candle right on top of there, and
Mm.
I don't feel like I was ripped off of anything because I don't know if you're aware of this. Built Bars. Best tasting protein bars out there. Sing it with me. Best tasting protein bars out there. And this is I got the Built Puff right here, the birthday cake one. They're fantastic. It's like a chocolate covered marshmallow protein bar, which sounds like a delicious Mad Lib. And you make every day your birthday with the Built birthday cake puffs. They take in a delicious experience of biting into a fresh slice of birthday cake. And on my 50th birthday, I got 100% white chocolate and added sprinkles. And guess what? I'm going to read right here. 150 calories. I could burn that off on a podcast. 16 grams of protein. What? 9 grams of sugar. I mean, compare that to a candy bar or compare that to actual birthday cake, which is not as good for you. And they're made with collagen protein. And I said, I demand my protein to be collagen. And Built Bar came through for me. That was from Sully himself. And your body absorbs that more effectively. I know this because of my days of chemistry, I think. And it provides you with tons of health benefits, like, Built Bars. Go to Built.com and get a birthday cake puff now. Celebrate my 50th. And Millard's, 10th. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15. Get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off at Built.com. Hey, I know we already mentioned this, but let's give another shout out to Locked On Now. Great recaps of the games with analysis from local experts, including Millard Thomas, taking fans through the season like no other network, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So, hey, let's quickly run down what happened in baseball on Sunday. Let's check right now. Do you think the Giants came back? Do you think the Giants came back?
No.
I actually don't think they did. They're losing 15-2. There's 2 outs in the 9th. But the Giants are rallying. They may come back. Padres won in extra innings, 7-3 against the supposed world champion Atlanta Braves. Hey, the Padres are in first place. Break up the Padres.
Gross.
Will Myers. Oh man, you can't contain Will Myers. And Dansby Swanson got a 2-run homer in a losing cause. Justin Verlander's turned back the clock. He's now, I'm not gonna look at his win loss record, but the fact that he has an ERA of 1.38. He was fantastic.
Beast.
Altuve homer, Maldonado homer, Gurriel homered. It's 8-0. A lot to not enough. We went over the Pirates and the Reds. The Tigers and the Orioles, 5-1 Tigers. Another home run by Miguel Cabrera, who's finding the fountain of youth. The Mariners and the Mets played a wild bunch of games this weekend, and today was no different. Julio Rodriguez homered, Francisco Lindor homered. There was one of the big homer. Who else got the big home run? I can't remember off the top. What?
He had a big hit. Nemo had a big hit, didn't he?
Yeah, Brandon Nimmo had a big hit. There was another big home run. Okay, I should have had it written down. I was doing some of this from memory. All I know is that the Mariners won a slugfest, 8-7. The Rays used a major league record 74 pitchers in their 3-0 win against the Blue Jays. Okay, I may have been exaggerating that, but they had a parade of pitchers, and obviously all those pitchers were getting shelled because they held the Blue Jays to 0 runs and 5 hits. Yes, keep them coming, boys. The Brewers had back-to-back home runs by Rowdy Tellez and not Soler. It was I can't remember. I should have.
Willie?
They hit a bunch of home runs, 7-3 over Miami. The Twins remain in first place. Byron Buxton got his 11th home run.
Yeah,
3-1 over the Guardians. The
Good
Yankees can't be stopped. They beat the White Sox. The White Sox are now under 500, and the Twins remain 5 games over 500. Could this be the year the Twins win a single postseason game? Salvador Perez is still playing, and he got a go-ahead hit in the 9th inning to have Kansas City beat Colorado. The Angels and the A's played a weird series, including a walk-off 3-run home run in Saturday's opening game. And then the Angels got mad and beat them like 9-1, and then they won 4-1 today. Ohtani hit another home run. Cubs beat your Diamondbacks. Patrick Wisdom homered. Someone named Frank Schwindel, not a player for hardball, homered. And then that gets us to the Dodgers and the Phillies. Now, Gavin Lux had a walk-off. The Phillies took a 4-0 lead after 2. Dodgers chipped away, and Gavin Lux hit a 2-run, 2-out walk-off double to end the game 5-4. But it ended a 4-game losing streak by the Dodgers because the Dodgers were a bit spiraling. And let's just bring up who the one-man wrecking crew was for the Phillies, who sat out today's game because he's actually injured. But playing through pain is Bryce Harper. And his last 7 games, while he's been injured, his last 7 games, he's hit 4 home runs, driven in 10, has batted .516. Oh, but I want other stats. Okay, his OPS has been .556, and his that's his on. I'm sorry, his on base has been .556. His slugging has been 1,097, and making his OPS 1.652. He's had 34 total bases in the last 7 games. You do the math on that, and he has been just explosive and sunk basically single-handedly sunk the Dodgers in a couple of wild slugfests. Harper leads the league in runs, leads the league in doubles, leads the league in home runs, leads the league in slugging percentage, leads the league in total bases. This is a guy who some people still think is overrated. He's won 2 MVPs, and he looks like he wants a third, even if the Phillies don't do gotch.
Yeah, he's been an offensive juggernaut so far for the Phillies this season. And some of the numbers have been a little surprising with Bryce Harper because I think he has a career low walk rate right now. His strikeout percentage is like top 3 in his career, but it does not matter because he's crushing home runs at a higher rate than I think ever before in his career. Extra base hits, he's hitting that at a higher rate than ever before in his career as well. He's just smashing the cover off the ball. And what's making it so surprising for Bryce Harper is what you just mentioned. He's hurt right now. This is someone who has like a UCL tear. Like he should be getting Tommy John surgery or something right now. Like Bryce Harper's not allowed to throw a baseball for the next 4 weeks, but it does not matter because guess what, Sully? Your favorite thing, we have it right now in baseball. And if we didn't have this, Bryce Harper wouldn't be playing right now. And that is the universal DH. Think about how great it is, Sully. This is the greatest thing that's ever happened to baseball. This is why we needed it. Because instead it would be Kyle Gibson or Aaron Nola or someone, Zach Wheeler out there playing instead of Bryce Harper. But instead we're watching an MVP play, Sully. We get to watch one of the greatest players in baseball live up to his potential and his ceiling and absolutely crush the cover off the ball. So imagine that. You've come around to the universal DH because of Bryce Harper, one of the most hated men in baseball, one of the most polarizing players we got.
Okay, I have 2 syllables to say to you.
Okay.
Touche.
Okay. I thought we were going to F you. I thought we were going to F you.
A little hot tip right there. No. That was this was an example when it works. This is an example of when it works. Okay, I'm enough of a man in my half of a century on this planet Earth to be able to say, okay, in that instance, it worked. He's been. I did a whole episode on Bryce Harper in the off season. It's unbelievable that right now Bryce Harper's age, he's not yet 30.
It's crazy,
and this is his 11th full season in the major leagues, and I brought this up, and this is a question that I brought up when I talked about him in the last offseason. And that is, I said, is he the most overrated, underrated player in baseball or the most underrated, overrated player in baseball? Because there are some people who will still chant and say he's overrated. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that he's had several seasons in his career where he was good.
Mm-hmm.
Not great, but good. A good, solid player. Obviously, he's had a couple of years where he's won 2 MVPs, and he certainly was in the conversation for the MVP in a couple other seasons. He's had a couple of seasons where he was, like his first year in Philadelphia, he was very good, but not, transcendent. And of course, when he gets all the hype and everything like that he's gonna be like the LeBron of baseball.
Yeah,
that's a lot to take in. But remember, when he won his first MVP, it was his 4th season. He was already a postseason veteran for a couple of years. And, he had that unbelievable season in 2015. He was 22. That should have been the year he was a senior in college. Instead, he was a 4-year veteran. And since then, he has been consistently, he's had several years where he's had OPS over 1,000. If it's not, it was hovering around 900. I mean, this is his prime, and we're seeing maybe those 4 years where he was pretty dang good were the years he would have been in AA and AAA.
Yeah, Bryce Harper's kind of like Giancarlo Stanton-ish because there's some seasons where he maybe bats around 250, maybe a couple seasons where he gets kind of hurt and only plays
Mhm.
100 games. But at the end of the day, if you look at his numbers, his career stat line is going to be 280 average with like a 950 OPS for his career. And that's the same with Mike Stanton or Giancarlo Stanton, as he's called now, because he's going to have 350 home runs. He currently has over 350 home runs, and he's got career OPS above 900 as well. So I feel like those two players are kind of comparable in terms of their overall career arcs. Both of them have MVP type peaks, and both of them have had similar lows where you're like, yeah, these are two still all-star level players, but maybe they're not having transcendent seasons like you've discussed. But when I still look at Bryce Harper's career and you discuss that overrated, underrated, and you bring up the LeBron of baseball, I think that's a really big question that I've even posed to, I think, Locked On Phillies host, when we did have Locked On Phillies host Dan Wilson, when I brought him on a pod last year. I've asked him, like, do you think he's lived up to that moniker of being the quote unquote LeBron of baseball? Because coming out, he was 16, he was on the Sports Illustrated cover. We all know the hype that Bryce Harper had entering the Major League Baseball. And you look at his career, he's had some of the highest highs. He's won 2 MVPs, but it also makes you wonder that when he did leave the Washington Nationals, the first thing they did was win a World Series. So it is kind of a weird career for Bryce Harper because he's lived up to, I think, statistically being the guy that was on that Sports Illustrated cover as a teenager, having that career 900 OPS. He's going to finish probably with 500 plus home runs in his career. He's going to go down as a, 3-4 time MVP potentially. But the idea of you leaving and your team wins a World Series right away, it is a pretty weird concept. Like, imagine Mike Trout left the Angels, then all of a sudden the Angels win the World Series. You'd be like, whoa, what is going on here? How is that even possible? You had the best player in baseball for a decade. Now all of a sudden you're winning chips as soon as he's gone. It is a weird phenomenon that has happened with Bryce Harper, the fact that his team won as soon as he left. But if he's able to bring some success to Philadelphia, who we don't really discuss enough, this has been one of the biggest playoff droughts in Major League Baseball. I think behind the Seattle Mariners, the
Yeah.
Philadelphia Phillies have the second longest playoff drought in Major League Baseball. So a city like Philadelphia, who we know can really get on their players, who we know if you're struggling in Philly, the fans will let you know. So if Bryce Harper can bring that team back to glory, back to where they were back in 08, 09 when they were making World Series runs, the city of Philadelphia will love Bryce Harper like they do with, Joel Embiid right now, who plays for the Philadelphia 76ers. They will treat you like a son in Philadelphia, but you got to bring them back to the glory road, and you got to have some success, because if it's just Bryce Harper putting up big stats and this team is not making the postseason every year, then I don't think he'll go down in Philadelphia lore.
It's unbelievable when you mention it. So yeah, it's true. It's been since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
But 2011 doesn't seem that long ago, even though I know it's 11 years ago.
Yeah, over a decade.
And it was a run where the Phillies you wrote them in pen that they were going to be in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Between
Easy.
2007 and 2011, you knew the Phillies were, I mean, in 2010 and 2011, they were kind of like the Miami Heat of baseball, assembling a super team. And, to use the LeBron, and to the idea that the team that had a rotation with Lee, Hamels, and Halladay
Mm-hmm.
couldn't win a pennant. They didn't win a pennant with Halladay there. And it looked like they were better than the team that actually won the World Series in 08. Now, and I've mentioned this before, when they lost the NLCS to the Giants, you give them a little bit of a mulligan on that because the Giants pitching was able to match the Phillies pitching. That was like the way that the Braves lost all those years, is when you had a team that was able to maybe not have the better pitching staff over 162 games, but they had Lincecum, they had Kane, they had Bumgarner, they had pitchers who could match up with their team. The team they lost to in 2011, that Cardinal team that went on to win the World Series, I mean, they were on the verge of being up 2-0 and having them completely on their heels. And they lost that final game 1-0. I'm convinced if they squeezed 2 runs in that game, which is not a lot to ask, they would have swept the Brewers and swept the Rangers and won the World Series. And to think that team went from that level of write 'em in ink to a drought, despite being in a big media market, despite
Mm-hmm.
having, the Phillies are a big market team and but more importantly, a big budget team, and that have fans all across the country. I thought they were on the verge of being the National League Yankees. And it turned out that they've become the National League Mariners. And there's I was a big fan of them signing Girardi. I thought it was a great signing as a manager. I was fine with them signing Harper. I thought it was a sign to the fans that we're trying to win right now. I just things haven't worked out so far. And I want to see Bryce Harper in a World Series. I'm not even. I have a soft spot in my heart for the Phillies because I have many of my cousins grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, and grew up big Phillies fans. So I like to see them happy. I want to see my Stars in the World Series. That was one frustrating thing about the Braves in the World Series last year. They didn't have Acuna. I like to see my Stars in the damn World Series. And, I'd like to see Harper in a World Series and Trout. And in fact, because those two came in the league at the same time, it would be fascinating if they faced off in the World Series in a similar way. I know this is showing my age a little bit, but there were the two superstar third basemen who came up in the early 70s, became MVP. They were MVPs the same year and became the superstar faces of each league, playing the same position. Played in the World Series against each other in 1980. One was George Brett of Kansas City, and the other was Mike Schmidt of Philadelphia. And that was a lot of which one of these two are finally going to get their team their first ever championship. I think that sort of face-off between Trout and Harper would be the sort of thing that could give baseball its giant jolt and a boost of energy. If you need energy, get a Built Bar. Oh wait, we already did that ad read.
Yeah,
but
I was about to say, we're about to do it again. That would have been crazy. Yeah, I got a soft spot for Philadelphia too. I mean, I used to go to a bunch of Phillies games when I was a kid. I mean, it used to be one of my favorite ballparks. Maybe it is my favorite ballpark to go to. I love the environment and the atmosphere in Philadelphia. Used to go in the late 2000s when they were good. And you mentioned earlier about the Yankees teams of yesteryear. We're talking about their lineup and how deep it was. The Philadelphia Phillies was like that, where you looked at every single position. They legit had an all-star all around the diamond, and they're kind of trying to do that again. Like they made all these big moves this past offseason where they got a whole bunch of sluggers that just a lot of them played the same position, so it's kind of redundant in their lineup. So we'll see if it works out for them. I mean, they obviously haven't gotten off to too great of a start this season, and they play maybe the most wild series of the season against the LA Dodgers, where they'll go up 8 runs every game and then somehow blow it later in the game and then have a fantastic comeback to win. So that was a fun series, but we discussed how Bryce Harper has felt like he's been in the league a long time. He's been in the Major League Baseball 11 years, but he also felt like it hasn't been that long. Well, the last time the Philadelphia Phillies made the postseason, Bryce Harper wasn't yet a major leaguer. Bryce Harper broke into major leagues in 2012. The Philadelphia Phillies last made the postseason in 2011. So the last time the Phillies made the postseason, Bryce Harper was not even on a major league roster just yet. So that's how long it's been. Bryce Harper wasn't even playing just yet.
But you've been playing this whole time.
Oh, thank you.
And guess what? We did another crossover.
Yeah.
Look at that. We did another crossover.
We
said let's try to keep this one short. It's one of the longest ones we've done.
Longest one of the season, probably.
I know. Let's keep it short. You and I before we said, all right, let's keep it tight, man. We could have kept going on and on. But you know what? That's why you got to also subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks. You can hear Millard Thomas's great show and a lot of great insight there. You can follow Millard at Creator Thomas 24. If you want to follow Locked On Diamondbacks, go look that up on all your social media stuff. You know how it works. If you're listening to this, you know how social media works, unless you're my mom. And if you want to follow us, we're at Locked On MLB Pod, same handle for Instagram. If you want to follow me, boom, at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Crossing it over, as we do on Mondays, with Millard Thomas. This has been Locked On MLB for the 16th day of May 2022. I'm a 50-year-old man. Can you believe it? Millard's
looking great.
And you're only 49. Let's do a fist bump. Have you ever fist bumped with a 50-year-old? There you go. Boom.